TV.
Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us this morning on Open Line. We're continuing with our week-long look at the martial arts, and today we're talking about Kenpo Karate. My guests are, and watch me get this right for a change, Bill Bean, Ken Baker, and Bill Prusinowski, and they're all with the Syracuse Kenpo Karate School. I mentioned to viewers when we were going off yesterday that you'd have an explanation for us about Kenpo Karate, and tell us a little bit about how Kung Fu is brought into the picture.
Well, Karen, in Kenpo Karate, what we actually have now is a modern, rather Americanized derivative of the much more ancient art of Chinese Kung Fu. What we will try to show in our demonstration coming up is we basically maintain many of the traditional moves, many of the moves that were passed down from antiquity, but now we also, through modern technology and in some respects, have modernized some of our form. We use greater scientific principles now that have been introduced to us by some of the modern masters. Ed Parker, the founder of our style, such karate champions as Joe Louis, not the boxer Joe Louis, but there's a karate man, Joe Louis, and of course even the late Bruce Lee. And so basically we have art that has its origins in China, but now today is more an Americanized fighting art. So, and we still practice both.
What does Kenpo mean? Does that come from a Chinese name? Or?
Kenpo basically means way of the fist, or fist method. And that pretty graphically describes our main weapon. The hands are our primary weapon, although we utilize feet, elbows, knees, the whole spectrum of fighting technique.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll be back to talk more about Kenpo Karate and once again show you another demonstration of this art after this message, so please stay with us. Or anything. You would look at me or in there. I was just explaining something to my guests. Once again, thank you for joining us on Open Line, and we're talking this morning about Kenpo Karate. My guests, once again, Bill Bean, Ken Baker, and Bill Prusinowski from the Syracuse Kenpo Karate School. What qualities of Kung Fu are incorporated into Kenpo? And I keep harping on this because some people have called and asked me if we're going to talk about Kung Fu. The only thing I know about it is what we saw in that, what was the name of that show?
Kung Fu.
Oh yeah, there you go. Kung Fu and the slow motion movements and things like that. What is the
well, I don't want to mislead anybody, Karen, into calling this Kung Fu. It seems like after David Carradine made the show a big hit, every karate school in the world also
advertises for Kung Fu.
Kung Fu under karate, and so everybody would associate. Actually, there's quite a bit of similarity, and there's dissimilarity also. The television Kung Fu, television show Kung Fu, although it came under a lot of criticism, actually portrayed a pretty realistic portrayal of how Kung Fu actually was. It
wasn't a bastardized version, it was really the actual movements that we were seeing?
As the movements themselves were actually far more vicious than they would allow on TV. Yeah. But I was referring to the monastery scenes where they showed Kung Fu as a way of life, philosophy, learning medicinal practices, scholarly things. Combat was just one form of Kung Fu. Now, today, very few schools still practice it in the traditional sense of making it a way of life in terms of philosophy and scholarly pursuits and things like this. Like our school, for example, we have Kenpo Karate, which we refer to it as. It has its, again, seeds in Kung Fu. But we, of course, stress self-defense and the combative version of Kung Fu. Kung Fu in a pure version probably doesn't exist anymore in the world as it originally did in China.
Has the philosophy of the art struck you yet? No. Bad term, but has it come to you yet, or does that kind of work kind of like osmosis? The more you get into the physical aspect of it, the more your spiritual and philosophical being gets into it.
Yeah, well, in different ways, you know, like there is the karate that we do at the school, and then there is the part that we take out of the school with us when we go home, and it's with everybody, really. You live karate, really, in a sense.
How so? I mean, what has it changed in your lifestyle?
The list would be very long. Discipline, most importantly. Health, okay. I find my health is a lot better. I think everybody can say that. You feel better, and you know, just an all-around feeling of, you know, goodness.
Ken, is the same true for you?
Well, a sense of accomplishment in doing something that has more than just a hobby aspect to it. And in a hobby where you do something that appeals to you, but in the martial arts, you're doing something that appeals to you and yet does something for yourself. Like Bill was saying, increases your health and your general look on life. You tend to appreciate more of what you can do, and therefore you can tend to appreciate other people for what they can do.
Why did you choose karate as opposed to Tai Chi or Judo?
When I first started, I have to refer this to myself, there were only 3 schools in Syracuse. And I called all 3, and it was just a matter of a decision of taking Kenpo at the school in Liverpool. It was a matter of convenience at the time.
Okay. All right. And also, before we get into to the demonstration tape, you're both wearing different color belts. What does that mean in degrees? You're higher than Bill or whatever?
Basically, yeah. Would you like to?
Okay, well, I was just going to... it's a pretty good indicator. Actually, it's 3 basic levels. You have your beginner level, orange, purple, blue, and green belt. That would be Mr. Bean's level. Then you have your intermediate stage, which is brown belt. Once you're brown belt, you're there for quite a while. This might be considered semi-expert level. There are 3 degrees of brown belt. And the highest level is black belt. There are degrees of that also. Now, most karate schools have pretty much the same arrangement. Sometimes the belts are a little different. But that's basically the idea, beginner, intermediate to advanced.
Okay, why don't we take a look at the beginner, the intermediate, and the expert at Kenpo Karate. This is a tape that we did this morning before the gentleman came on the program, and take a look at Bill, Ken, and Bill. Mr. Prusinowski, if you'll explain what's going on.
We're starting off here with an application of some of our blocks. These blocks are very practical. You see Bill Bean attacking with various strikes you can get in a street situation, or some of them are actually karate related also. There's a kick to the body. Ken uses a downward block. You can also use the same block for a punch to the body. Okay, another kick uses a roundhouse kick block.
Ken is very calm about his movement.
Yeah, well, you have to be very relaxed. If there's any tension or stiffness, your reactions are not fast, and this is something that is emphasized in karate training: correct breathing, and almost a passive state of mind when you're out there. Except when you strike, that's when you put the power in.
When he blocks, the blows don't hurt his arm or his leg?
Well, we try not to emphasize.
Or you're just offsetting it?
Yeah, we try to deflect more than block.
Okay.
Okay, and here's some of the basic strikes I'm demonstrating with one of our innovative things, our safety equipment. This is a back fist strike. Combination back fist into a ridge hand. Reverse punch to the body. Reverse punch to the face. Now,
it's like boxing.
Grab and lunge punch. Well, there's similarities.
Not just because you have the gloves on. That's not why I'm saying it, but the technique is almost boxing.
There are similarities in a lot of your fighting arts. That's a close and inverted fist. Grab and shuto. That's a more traditional karate move. Now some kicks, I believe. I do every kick fast once and then slow. This is the front kick to the body. This is the front roundhouse kick to the body. One of our quickest kicks. More powerful, a roundhouse kick to the back of the head. This is more advanced technique. Then we have one of the more powerful kicks here, a side kick.
I'd say so.
Okay. Then we get a little bit more advanced. There's a front hook kick. It's quite advanced, in fact, as is the next one coming up. Spinning hook kick.
That's a move made popular by Bruce Lee, I believe.
Yeah.
I was going to say, even your bouncing up and down is almost kind of a boxing.
Well, again, this is a more modern innovation. Actually, karate, as we practice it today, has borrowed quite extensively from Western boxing. Not to say that we just go out there and box with kicks. I think there's quite a bit more to the art than that. But there are certain rhythmical moves that, again, in a more modern sense.
What's left of the classical techniques?
Well, you'll see that in just a minute.
Okay.
We have a couple classical forms coming up and some classical self-defense. These are all sparring techniques that can be used. Take down.
Why didn't you want to use mats? You don't like our mats?
We never practice on mats. In karate, you're probably using these techniques in a street situation where you have some concrete, just like you have here, and that's how we practice. We do in the beginning, of course, for beginners. You utilize mats to teach basic break falls. But it's good to be able to take your falls on the hard surface because it's the way it usually is. Okay, speaking of more classical form now, this is a kata. It's a two-man kata. Now you can tell the difference here. There's the lack of a rhythmic bouncing, as you call it. The moves are a lot more focused, more direct.
It's almost as though they're more sure of themselves.
Yeah. Well, this is, of course, though, a staged type thing. It's pre-arranged. But it's excellent, of course, for developing coordination, things of this sort. Now, these self-defense techniques coming up now are all, of course, these all have their, they all relate to the much older arts now. A couple of the moves here are actually more closely related to jiu-jitsu.
Depending more on balance, you mean?
Balance.
Okay.
For one thing, is punch attack. It's called windmill guard. These all have names. This will be crossing hands. Series of hand strikes.
And this is not a sport. This is more for
This is
competition.
the real thing here. Well, this is what we'd be doing in a street situation if somebody actually attacked. This is from a kneeling position. So he kicks, take him down, and from behind, stop when he's down.
This, again, we're seeing is the more modern versions, more modern techniques.
These techniques would be the older.
Oh, okay.
Two-man takedown.
How do you guys take that?
They don't have any choice.
It's fun.
Persons that, okay, and for you guys specifically, when you took up this art, were you hoping to get into the sport or into the competition end of it, or what?
Thinking back, I can't remember, really. It's basically, I guess, I was just intrigued with it. I had read up on it for a bunch of years and just wanted to try it out and see how it, what happened and how it went. And pretty soon, like I say, it's a way of life. You just start living it.
Do you have very many female students? Are women as interested in karate or Kenpo karate specifically?
Quite a few, yes, more every day it seems. In fact, I started this with my wife quite a few years back, and she pursues another profession, but she also helps me run the school, and she's also an instructor at our school. So I think this encourages women enrollment. As I say, more and more every day, women and children. This is the kind of thing that has a certain degree of grace and fluidity to it that many people can relate to from both sexes and all ages.
Okay. For those of you who just tuned in or who've been with us, we are talking this morning about Kenpo Karate. My guests are Bill Bean, Ken Baker, and Bruce Prusinowski with the Syracuse Kenpo Karate School. I'd like to invite your phone calls right now. Any questions whatsoever that you might have about Kenpo Karate, karate in general, any of the various forms of martial arts. I think Bill, any of the Bills or Ken will be able to answer your questions for you. Our number is 445-0197, and please give us a call at that number. Any comments, any questions whatsoever. I think after this demonstration you might have some questions, and going by what these gentlemen had said about the course. Women as well, any children that are in the audience that have any questions, please give us a call at that number. I know many people joke around when they think about karate and say, well, are your hands registered, things like that. Why did that joke begin, and is there such thing as registering your hands or other parts of your body as legal weapons?